Next is let us study about the viscometer. A viscometer is an instrument used to measure the viscosity of a fluid. For liquids with viscosities which vary with the flow conditions, an instrument called a rheometer is used. Thus, a rheometer can be considered as a special type of viscometer. Viscometers only measure under one flow condition. They will be measuring only under one flow condition. In general, either fluid remains stationary and an object moves through it. While measuring the viscosity, we may keep the fluid to be constant and put an object and measure the time travel, and thus by measuring the viscosity. Or you can make the fluid to flow. Or the object is stationary and the fluid moves past it. The drag caused by the relative motion of the fluid and the surface is a measure of the viscosity. The flow conditions must have a sufficiently small value of Reynolds number for there to be laminar flow. At 20 degrees, the dynamic viscosity of water is different and the kinematic viscosity is different. These values are used for calibrating certain types of viscometers. So when you consider the viscometer, constructing a viscometer, we have to think about the dynamic viscosity and the kinematic viscosity also. So that is how a viscometer is designed. So a viscometer measures the viscosity by making the liquid to flow and keeping the object constant, or keeping the liquid to be constant and making the object to flow. Let us see about different types of viscometers. One is the U-tube viscometer. These devices are also known as glass capillary viscometers or Oswald viscometer, named after the scientist William Oswald. Another version is the Buchholz viscometer, which consists of a U-tube glass tube held vertically in a controlled temperature bath. In one arm, it is a vertical section of a precise narrow pore, that is the capillary. You can see here from B to D, it is a capillary tube. Above there is a bulb with its another bulb lower down on the another arm. In use, the liquid is drawn into the upper bulb by suction, then allowed to flow down through the capillary into the lower bulb. Two marks, one above and one below the upper bulb, indicate a known volume. So you will be drawing a liquid into it, you will be filling it with the liquid and then leaving it, thus by measuring its viscosity. Such viscometers are classified as direct flow or reverse flow viscometers. Reverse flow viscometers have the reservoir above the markings, and direct flow have the reservoir below the markings. Such classifications exist so that the level can be determined even when the opaque or the staining liquids are measured. Otherwise, the liquid will cover the marking and make it impossible to gauge. So, when the liquid makes the marking to invisible, you will be using the reverse flow viscometers. Next is the falling sphere viscometer, or the falling sphere viscometers we might have used in labs. Creeping flow past a sphere, you will be having the Stokes law is the basis for this type of viscometers, in which the fluid is stationary in a vertical glass tube and the sphere of known size and density is allowed to fall through the liquid, and you will be measuring the time taken by the ball to travel certain distance. So here, if correctly selected, it reaches the terminal velocity, which can be measured by the time it takes to pass through two marks on the tube. Knowing the terminal velocity, the size and the density of the sphere, and the density of the liquid, we can use Stokes' law to calculate the viscosity of the liquid by this. A series of balls can be kept of different sizes, that is different diameters, and they will be allowed to fall, and different timings can be calculated, and the experiment uses glycerol or any liquid whose whose viscosity is to be determined. First calibration will be done and you will use any other liquid. It includes many different oils and polymer liquids as solutions. This was found by George Gabriel Stokes in the year 1851, and he derived an equation for the frictional forces called as the Stokes equations. You might have studied about Stokes equation in your previous classes. Falling ball viscometer. Here, Fitz-Hopla was granted a patent for the falling ball viscometer. He designed this and it was named after him, the worldwide first viscometer who determined the dynamic viscosity, that is moving viscosity. Moreover, world first viscometers developed by Hopla in Meiringen, Germany are the Ball's pressures types conceometer and rheoviscometer. So he designed many types of viscometers, and one such type is the falling ball viscometer. It is well suited for measuring the viscosity of a liquid, and the method has been stated in international standards. They use 6 different balls with different diameters of various dynamic viscosity measurement ranges, and a suitable ball can be selected when the fall time of the ball are not lower than the minimum fall time recorded during the testing procedure. So you have to select many balls and you have to test it, and then you have to select a ball which will have the time of falling not lower than the minimum fall time. The rolling and the sliding moment of the ball through the sample liquid are at times in an inclined cylindrical measuring tube. The sample viscosity correlates with the time required by the ball to drop a specific distance, and the test results are given as dynamic viscosity. Here the liquid will be in moving condition. So you will be keeping the liquid in the inclined cylindrical measuring tube. So it will be in an inclined position and the ball will be rolling and sliding through that liquid. Next is the falling piston viscometer. It is also known as the Norcross viscometer. It was invented by Austin Norcross. The principle of viscosity measurement in this rugged and sensitive industrial device is based on a piston and a cylinder assembly. The piston is periodically raised by an airlifting mechanism, and you will be having the wall of the cylinder into the space which is formed below the piston as it is raised, and you will be drawing the material and in the liquid and you will be drawing it out, and that time will be measured. The assembly of this is then typically held up for a few seconds and then allowed to fall by gravity, expelling the sample through the same pace that it entered, creating a shearing effect on the measuring liquid, which makes the viscometer particularly sensitive and good for measuring certain thixotropic liquids. The time of fall is a measure of viscosity with the clearance between the piston and the inside of the cylinder forming the measuring orifice. So with the piston falling on the liquid, you will be measuring the viscosity. The viscosity controller measures the time of fall and displays the resulting viscosity value. The controller can be calibrated and the time of fall value can be measured. Industrial use is popular due to its simplicity. It can be repeated any number of times and low maintenance and longevity. This type of measurement is not affected by the flow rate or external vibrations. The principle of operation can be adopted for many different conditions, making it ideal for the process control environments. So it was widely used in industry for the measurement of viscosity. Oscillating piston viscometer is the next type of viscometer, sometimes referred to as electromagnetic viscometer or EMV viscometer, which was invented by the Cambridge Viscosity in 1986. So the sensor comprises of a measurement chamber and magnetically influenced piston. So measurements are taken whereby a sample is first introduced into the thermally controlled measurement chamber where the piston resides. So you will be filling it with a liquid and there will be a piston, and over that you will be having the magnetic chamber and it will be controlled magnetically. So electronics drive the piston into an oscillatory motion. So when you apply the current or the power, then it will be made into oscillatory motion. The piston will move and the measurement chamber with a controlled magnetic field. A shear stress is imposed on the liquid due to the piston travel, and the viscosity is determined by measuring the time travel of the piston. So you can measure it, you can make the piston to vibrate, and then you can measure the shearing stress which is imposed on the liquid. The oscillating piston viscometer technology is used for small sample viscosity and micro sample viscosity testing in laboratory applications. It is not widely used for industry. The viscosity sensors have been scaled for a wide range of industrial applications, such as small size viscometers for uses in compressors and engines, flow through viscometers for dip coating process, inline viscometers for use in refineries, and many other applications. Improvement in sensitivity from modern electronics is stimulating a growth in oscillating piston viscometer, popularly with academic laboratories exploring gas viscosity. So this is the viscometer which is called as the oscillating piston viscometer. Next one is the vibrational viscometers. These are also similar to the oscillating viscometers. These vibrational viscometers date back to 1950s, which is a class that operates by measuring the damping of an oscillating electromechanical resonator which is immersed in the fluid whose viscosity is to be determined. The resonator generally oscillates in torsion or transversely, and the higher the viscosity, the larger the damping imposed on the resonator. The resonator's damping may be measured by one of several methods. So you will be having a electromechanical resonator which is immersed into the liquid, and the damped oscillations, when it is dipped into the liquid, the oscillations, vibrations will be different. So by measuring that you can find out the viscosity. Measuring the power input necessary to keep the oscillator vibrating at a constant amplitude. The higher the viscosity, more power is needed to maintain the amplitude of oscillation. Measuring the decay time of the oscillation once the excitation is switched off. The higher the viscosity, the faster is the signal decay. So if it takes more power input, then the liquid viscosity is more. Measuring the frequency of the resonator as a function of the phase angle between the excitation and the response waveforms. The vibrational instrument also suffers from a lack of a defined shear field, which makes it unsuited to measure the viscosity of a fluid whose flow behavior is not known beforehand. Because if the liquid is of known characteristics or property, you can use it for this instrument. But if it is a new liquid or the properties are unknown, then it is not, this method is not suitable for the measurement of viscosity. Next is the quartz viscometer. The quartz viscometer is a type of vibrational viscometer. Here, an oscillating quartz crystal is immersed into the fluid, and the specific influence of this oscillating behavior defines the viscosity. The principle of quartz viscometry is based on the idea by W.B. Mason. The basic concept is the application of piezoelectric crystal for the determination of viscosity. In vibrational viscometer, we will be using a rod which is electromagnetically vibrated. Here we will be using a piezoelectric crystal for vibration. The quartz crystal vibrator or the viscometer. The high frequent electrical field that is applied to the oscillator causes a moment of the sensor and result in the shearing of the liquid. The moment of the sensor is then influenced by the external forces, that is the shear stress of the fluid, which affects the electrical response of the sensor. The calibration procedure as a precondition of viscosity determination of the quartz crystal was found by B. Bode, who told that the detailed analysis of the electrical and mechanical transmission behavior of the oscillating system. On the basis of this calibration, the quartz viscometer was developed, which allows continuous viscosity determination in resting and flowing liquids. So this can be used in both continuous viscosity determination of the liquids which are flowing or which are in rest. The rotational viscometers use the idea that the torque required to turn an object in a fluid is a function of the viscosity of that fluid. They measure the torque required to rotate a disc or bob in a fluid at a known speed. So these viscometers work by defining the exact volume of the sample to be shared within the test cell. The torque required to achieve a certain rotational speed is measured and plotted. So cone and plate and cup and bob are the two types of rotational viscometers. Here cone and plate viscometers use a narrow angled cone in close proximity to a flat plate. With this system, the shear rate between the geometries is constant at any given rotational speed. The viscosity can easily be calculated from the shear stress, from the torque and the shear rate, that is from the angular velocity. So you can measure the two forces and then from that you can determine the viscosity by using rotational viscometers. Next type of viscometer is the electromagnetically spinning sphere viscometer or the EMS viscometer. The EMS viscometers measure the viscosity of the liquid through observation of the rotation of a sphere driven by electromagnetic interaction. Two magnets which are attached to a rotor create a rotating magnetic field. The sample to be measured is in a small test tube, and inside the tube is an aluminum sphere. The tube is located in a temperature controlled chamber and set such that the sphere is situated in the center of the two magnets. So you will be having a small test tube where the sample to be measured is kept, and inside the tube there will be an aluminum cylinder. The tube will be located kept in a temperature controlled chamber, and it is set such that it will be kept at the center of two magnets. The rotating magnetic field induces eddy currents in the sphere. The rotational of the sphere depends on the rotational velocity of the magnetic field, the magnitude of the magnetic field, and the viscosity of the sample around the sphere. So the viscosity will be also a factor which is controlling the rotation of the sphere. The motion of the sphere is monitored by a video camera located below the cell. So it will be kept and magnetic force will be applied and it will be made to rotate, and the rotation depends on the viscosity also, and thus by measuring the rotation you can find out the viscosity. The EMS viscometer distinguishes itself from other rotational viscometers by three main characteristics. All parts of the viscometer that come in direct contact with the sample are disposable and inexpensive. They can be easily bought. The measurements are performed in a sealed sample vessel. The EMS viscometer requires only very small sample quantities. So it can be easily used. It differentiates itself from other costly viscometers. Next is the bubble viscometer. The bubble viscometers are used to determine the kinematic viscosity of non-liquids such as resins or varnishes. The time required for an air bubble to rise is directly proportional to the viscosity of the liquid. So the faster the bubble rises, the lower is the viscosity. Here you can see in two test tubes the liquid is filled and the bubble rise is measured. So in the first, the lower viscosity liquid is there, so the bubble rises fast. In the next, the higher viscosity liquid is there, so the bubble rises low. Then you will be comparing it. The time taken is measured in bubble seconds, which may then be converted to Stokes. This method is considerably accurate, but the measurements can vary due to the variances in buoyancy because of the changing in shape of the bubble in the tube. So inside the tube, there may be, when you are adding the liquid, there may be changes in the shape of the bubble, and so also there will be difference in the viscosity measurement. Next is the rectangular slit viscometer. A basic design is shown here. You will be having a rectangular slit channel with a uniform cross-sectional area. The test liquid is pumped at a constant flow through this channel. Multiple pressure sensors, they will be mounted at linear distances along the streamwise direction. They measure the pressure drop when it is moving from one point to another point. So the pressure difference will be noted using the